Earthlings, do-gooders, culture makers, and storytellers. Welcome to another episode of the Slow Dive podcast. I am your host, Farida, and today we chat with another illuminating creative author, filmmaker, video editor, Ayser Salman. Ayser Salman is a filmmaker and author with a primary focus on projects that shed light on underrepresented communities. As an editor, her work in docuseries is Clio and Emmy-winning. Born in Iraq and growing up in Kentucky with a brief stint in Saudi Arabia, Ayser constantly felt like a fish out of water. This nomadic childhood shaped her interest in storytelling. After graduating from the University of Kentucky School of Journalism, Ayser worked as a local news producer before coming to Los Angeles for film school. Since then, she's been a story producer, editor for studios such as Miramax Films, Disney, Universal Pictures, The Weinstein Company, Netflix, and FX. Ayser also teaches writing classes and workshops to help new writers find their authentic voice so they too can tell the story most true to themselves. Welcome to the Slow Dive podcast, Ayser. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you, Farida. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for joining us. So I'm going to ask you, when was the last time you wrote a handwritten letter?
I wrote a thank you note last night.
Oh, that's
a good one. That's an easy one.
Okay, well, that is good. Okay, so people appreciate handwritten letters, right?
I love it. A friend of mine took me out for my birthday, which was a couple of days ago, and so I sent her a little thank you card. So yeah.
Oh, happy belated birthday too!
I'm just kidding.
Happy belated birthday. That's lovely. Okay, well, what is a lost art or fading art that, in your opinion, needs to be revived?
A lost art or a fading art that needs to be revived? Well, handwriting letters, obviously. That is a good question. There's so many. Actually, okay. Here's a great one. They used to have these things back in the day, the salons, where, it was really kind of sort of for the elite and intellectuals would gather and discuss ideas. And I just love that, not the elite necessarily, the intellectual elite part, but I love the idea of just getting together with friends and just having conversations like that. I guess today it would be like games night or something like that. But I find that I'm always, I feel like I love that idea of just like having friends just get together to discuss. Well, and you know what? Actually, book club is probably the closest thing to that. But if there was something where you can just host a salon, I think I know that they're out there, but I feel like in my life, I don't see them enough.
You should host one and then invite all of us. What do you think is the appeal of the salons that you like?
It's just the idea of having conversation with people about not the usual things that you have conversations with. Like I don't, when I get together with my friends, it's always, oh my God, did you hear what happened in the news and blah, blah, blah. And then, like maybe a little gossip about our friends or whatever. But I miss the, discussing a topic, just a random topic.
The intellectual discourse and the exchanging of ideas.
Discourse. It doesn't need to be intellectual because it could go off. Yeah. It could be nonsense, but I kind of miss that. I miss having just bantering with friends and things like that. So I guess, probably a book club would be.
Yeah. I mean, I know you're an author and we're going to get into that, but like some book clubs are just excuses to get together. We never discuss the books. It's just like, oh, well, we have this book, but no one's read the latest chapter and we're just going to talk about stuff. And it's just community building too, right? It's just having that anchor. So yeah, I love that. Ayser, what cartoons did you watch growing up?
We had a lot of, I lived in Saudi Arabia for a good portion of my kind of, later childhood. So like from 9 to like 12. So I was still watching cartoons. So we had a lot of like random cartoons, like maybe British ones, or maybe older ones. Like there was something called the Shmoo. And
okay.
All the Hanna-Barbera ones were great.
Yeah.
Come on, there's nothing the only cartoons I did not like so much were the genre ones, like the the robot C1s. My brother would watch those, but I didn't really like those cartoons. What kind of cartoons did you watch? Now I'm curious.
Yeah, no, I like the Jetsons, and then the Flintstones. I don't know, they were just very basic. But yeah, I also like the Warner Brother cartoons. You know, like the Coyote and the Roadrunner, and like Elmer Fudd. But like, I actually grew. I don't know about you, but like, I'm gonna date myself here, but like I grew up watching like the Addams Family and the Munsters and like the black and white like
Yeah.
crazy family sitcoms, and those were really they were very helpful in shaping my creative background. So I'm just like I always like to know what other creatives, what their childhood favorites were, because it kind of shows up later. Like you see those like interests show up and emerge in their different pieces, and it says a lot about a person, I think. So now that I know what your favorite cartoons are, some of the ones you grew up watching, we're going to talk about your origin story and how that drove your storytelling and then representation and what that means for you. So I'm going to read a quote that I read. I'm going to read a quote by Reza Aslan about your book, The Wrong End of the Table. The Wrong End of the Table is an insightful and enjoyable look at one of the most contested and misunderstood minorities in America today, Muslims. Through her own life story, Ayser Salman uses her experiences to distill not just Islam, but also the impact religion and culture have on how we interact and understand the world around us. What emerges is that rare voice that is both relatable and unafraid to examine the complexities of her American identity as a minority, an immigrant, and a woman. Very lovely quote by Reza Aslan about your book.
Like complimentary.
Yeah. Well, tell me about why this book and what was the experience of growing up in Kentucky for you and your family?
I was born in Iraq. We moved with my family over here to the States when I was a toddler. For many reasons, for political reasons, for family reasons, for all of the reasons. The family wants us to have a better life in America. All of the things, right? So my English was not my first language. I spoke Arabic at first, and so I came here and I was learning with my mother, kind of, and I just, I was apparently when I was a baby, I was a very outgoing. But then when I came here, either it coincided with this period of introversion or shyness. I think I am now also. I feel like I'm outgoing, but also, very introverted. I value my quiet time and all that kind of thing. And I've learned how to modulate that, right? But when I was younger, I just felt like I just was off all the time, you know? And it stands to reason that you have that with because you're coming in, you're a fish out of water. And when your family is also trying to fit in, it doesn't give you that. You have a little bit of a buffer when you're at home and your family says, it's okay. This means this, but it's not like when you're a kid and you go to school and you're like, you have a weird experience and your mom's like, oh, when I was a kid, I had this.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't worry about it, because they didn't have the same experience. We were all kind of learning it. So I felt out. I felt like like off and out of sorts. And I think I turned inward, and I would do a lot of these, like, create these like all the kids do, create plays with my dolls, or like I did a lot of, I pretended I was a radio personality a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like we would have these, we had this station wagon, and back then, seatbelts weren't a thing. So I mean, I don't know if maybe how old you are in that regard, but it would be in the back of you'd have the middle, and then we'd just be in the back and just laying there. And I remember driving home, and, from whatever, some event that we had gone to, and, in the reflection of the window, I was pretending like I was in, like, being, like doing sort of like, I don't know, like, those old timey shows where the host was just like enshrouded in black or something. I don't know. I cannot remember what that is, but like I'm picturing Vincent Price, and I'm picturing me. But so anyway, so I would randomly make up stories and stuff, and I don't like horror movies, but for some reason they always had a horror bent. I think maybe that's I don't write them. I don't like them. They freak me out, but at the time, so I would do all that, and it just led into me writing story. I've kept a diary since I was 11, and that was really great for me. And I just, it was a way for me to turn inward and also express myself in a way that I didn't know was, you know, expressing my creativity. I just thought I'm going to put this down here because I need to tell someone, and this, I'm the only one that's going to understand. And so, cut 2 years later, when I was writing, I found that I was writing a lot of stories that were about my family, and they had narratives, and they had like the engine of the story. But a lot of them were very vignette, and I had a mentor, and so I was in at the time looking to break into TV as a TV writer. And so a mentor had told me, why don't you write these essays, publish them? I had a blog, everybody had a blog. And so I had a blog. Why don't you self-publish it and we can use it as IP and go into meetings? And I thought, well, that's a cool idea. And I had the idea, but I thought, oh, this is great. I'm going to put this on next on the list. And I did it. And I got lucky in that an agent was interested in the stories. And, he's like, you don't need to self-publish it. We can find a publisher. And this was all around 2016. So, Muslims were just beginning to become, well, okay, Muslims were becoming interesting in a positive way, not, in a post 9/11 way. There was that wave as well. But it was, Donald Trump 1.0 was beginning. And so people, a lot, my group wasn't the only malign group, right? And so people were interested. Yeah, so that we just kind of, he and I developed it together. And I had never thought about writing a book before in my life. I think when I was a kid, they say, what do you want to be? Well, a veterinarian or a writer. But, I did not, when I came to film school many years ago, I came with the idea of being, with the intention of being a filmmaker, a director. I think writing would be a necessary thing to get there, but never thought I would. And I can't tell you how much I enjoyed the process. It was very freeing because for two reasons. It's like you're writing prose and kind of anything goes, whereas versus when you're working in screenplays, it's very formatted and you need to stay within the format and all that kind of thing. Not that book writing doesn't have a format, but it was that. And then it was also, this was the first time I'd written as myself. I'd written as Ayser Salman instead of, hiding. Well, not, I shouldn't say hiding, but when you create characters, you're always, a little bit of yourself, but you're not, the character isn't Ayser. The character is, Sammy or Silva or Maha or something like that. And so you often, when you're writing, a film or TV piece or anything fictional, you can put parts of yourself in that, right? Well, here was me as me. And it freaked me out. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. This is, you know, all of the things that you have as a newbie writer, like who's going to care? Oh my God, what if I say something to, offend the people? What if most people, I changed their names, but there were a couple that they were like, no, 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 just tell a good story. What if, you know, I want to do them right. And so it was stressful in that regard until I realized, you know what? All I can do is just be myself. But it was there was a whole 7 or 8 month period of trial and error where we kind of, Marina, my agent, and I sort of tested the waters and brought the book out. And I realized that I was so worried about being interesting that I was hiding behind humor, which is what I had done prior to that. It's like, oh, it's going to be funny, and you can bury really important thematic elements that you don't want to be heavy-handed with. You can bury through humor. Yeah, sure, that's great. But it became like the stand-up routine where a lot of the feedback was, this is charming, but she's getting in her own way. And luckily, we pulled it back, and I took a month or so just to think about it. And I luckily in my day job, I'm an editor, and so I've been used to receiving notes and understanding them and interpreting them. So I was able to understand, like, okay, well, I think what I need to do is just, I mean, it sounds really simple and like a no-brainer now, but I needed to be authentic. How can I write? It was, it was being billed as a memoir and a comic memoir. So obviously it's like, exaggerated, and there's things in there for comedic
What,
effect, but it needed to be authentic. And
yeah. And what I see from a lot of like creatives and storytellers and filmmakers and writers is that they really do channel their childhood experience into these stories via early on journaling, radio show, creating. It's always there as an outlet for expression, but also understanding their experience, which then becomes relatable and to so many. So how has it been received, the book, with other Iraqi Americans or just other immigrant experiences? What kind of feedback have you got?
you know what? It's been a dream. A lot of the feedback that I've received, and by this I mean like random people that will email me, "Hey, I read your book," whatever. Um, a lot of it has been non-immigrants who had said, and this was a while ago. So the book came out in 2019. So that many worlds have happened since then. And I feel like we're kind of in a different place now. Like it's more commonplace, but not that it was not commonplace before. But a lot of people would write, you know, I'm a 40-year-old something white male, and really opened my eyes to this, and this, or my daughter has a friend who is from Pakistan, and it's really nice to connect with her on this regard. And then, I had some, people that were like, I'm Egyptian, but your experience is very similar, and they're all similar, right? And so that was really nice. I think I had, you do the thing at the end of the year. Well, I did this thing at the end of the year. It was actually I think it was right around COVID time. It was like a year later or something. So, so fine. My mind wasn't right. And I thought, well, I'm going to read every reviews. I'm going to read all the negative reviews. And it's not like they were horrific, but it was just like, oh, she doesn't go deep enough or whatever. I wanted more. And it was kind of interesting because I thought, well, it's not I think some people expected it to be this sort of, you know, tell all, or that, for all the reasons, for some of the reasons that I was concerned about it, that I was like, well, the only memoir that I know so far, this was at that time, that was written by a Muslim woman, is Malala. And I thought, well, I didn't have these horrific things that happened to me. So who's going to care about my story?
No,
And
I think that's a really important thing that you just said, because people are probably, there was an expectation of it to be more like maybe informed or centered around maybe more like, I don't know, tragedy, trauma. And then there's like this, there is in my opinion, there is a trope, or maybe you could put it better than me, where
trauma,
people do expect
trauma, is that what you're talking about?
yeah, trauma porn. Yeah, trauma centric storytelling. And that when we think of narratives and diverse narratives or immigrant narratives, they have to be sad and they have to be traumatic, and they can't be resilient or hopeful or joyful or just funny like yours, that are relatable. And I think comedy, of course, is the other side of drama. So there is pain in comedy. Comedy is just one way of delivering that, whereas palatable, where you can process it in a more relatable way where everyone can take a message from it. So I see that a lot when someone approaches immigrant authors or immigrant narratives. It's always like, well, I need to have something horrific happen in it, but this is a great family. They're just adjusting to this new culture, their new home, and it's funny and it's joyful, and that doesn't do so well in with those people, managers or agents, who are looking for that kind of book to maybe, I don't know, adapt into a film or a TV series. So I do think what you've done, it's great, because there's a lot of joy, like, I mean, there's like, as a Pakistani, like, all our stories are not like Malala stories. There's, unfortunately, what happened with her is awful, but she's done something amazing with her legacy and with that experience. But there's also amazing happy stories that need to be told too, or just run in the middle class families just adjusting, just like growing up. I think that's important. So yeah, I like how, do you have plans to do something with your book as far as like a TV series, maybe, perhaps? Have you
You
thought about that? Or been
Yes, I have. We've been in talks. It was being developed, and then it's kind of a lot of egos get in, and all the at the moment it's in development, and then we were kind of pivoting to maybe do it as a feature.
Mhm.
So it's been in different iterations, but yeah, it's. I think the thing is, well, I don't know what the thing is. Why, but basically to your point, and one thing that I will say that reminds me of, there was this great movie last year, American Fiction. Did you ever see it?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Oh, it's
Oh, I should
amazing.
see it now.
It's
I'm
you
gonna
should
write it
watch
down.
it. Yeah, it kind of speaks to that. It's like this author, once he kind of leaned
Oh,
in.
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like that for on a very small level. I wasn't writing intellectual things. I was just writing this story of
Mhm.
just a random person who had this experience that was interesting, enough,
Mhm.
and unique and not the same as somebody else's. And this is the story. And it really was just all about authenticity, and it was all about fitting in, and constantly, and when I was writing it, I learned a lot about myself. And so this led to me to teach. I mean, I've taught screenwriting through my
Mhm.
alma mater, but it had led me to teach these workshops about memoir writing. And really, whenever someone asked me, should write a memoir? Yes, absolutely. Because yeah, it's like before it was this sort of self-important thing of,
Mhm.
oh, my memoir, what have I done, whatever, memoir, whatever. I hate that. But it just, I gotta come up with another name for it, but it's just your personal story. And
Yeah.
what it does is for any creative or any writer, when you write that story and you're feeling everything, it excavates parts of you that you didn't know that were there. And so, I knew that I didn't fit in Kentucky when I was 9. And then, when we went to Saudi Arabia for a bit, I also had a hard time adjusting more societally and culturally. I had my friends, but then here we are in Saudi Arabia, and this was back then when women couldn't drive, and all of the
Mhm.
things, right?
Mhm.
And in the 80s, and so there was that amount. There was like, okay, well, you have to look at, if you're crafting a narrative, you have a diary, you can write this stuff, but when you're crafting a narrative story, what's your through line? And so
Yeah.
it became about not fitting in. And then, so I remember I wrote, I had all the chapters. I had, okay, the elementary school years, and high school was the worst, because then we came back and I went to a Catholic high school, and everybody had been there with each other for 10 years prior. And I, was coming in, and I was the outsider, and not even Catholic, or just going to this private school. And then we get to college, and then suddenly I was like, I was like, ooh, now I find my people, whatever. But it was, my agent and the editor was like, well, where's that time period?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
had all of these, and then you come back, then you leave Kentucky and come out to Hollywood, and then there's another part of trying to fit in, but where's college? And I realized this interesting aspect is that this whole time in my life, I had this concept that I was the outsider, right? And
Mhm.
I equated me as the outsider with every other outsider. So I was like with my African American friends, oh, I'm like you. And they're like, we're not. No, you're not like me. And I had this experience in college, and where I was being told, I was like, I had this, I realized my privilege, right? That I
Right.
present. I don't, you can see my name and you can think, but I can be from anywhere if you didn't know where I
Mhm.
was. But I present more white than I do African. I don't present African American, black, brown, or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a privilege there that I didn't realize that I had
Mm.
until I mean, I think when I was younger, I didn't really know. And so when, kind of coincided with me sort of, you come into your own, like when you're 30s and 40s, right? And like
Mhm.
understand more. And that's when I wrote this book, is when I was like, oh wow, okay, yes, absolutely. I was able to fit in. And I think I had this privilege because I could become a chameleon. I could,
Mhm.
I can tell people my name is Lisa, and they're like, okay, cool. That a lot of some of my friends couldn't do, like, I'm
Right.
from Nigeria. And she's like, yeah, I couldn't. that's not what my experience was.
Right.
So it was this very interesting, nuanced thing for me to go, oh, wait a minute. I'm not, just because I'm the other doesn't mean I'm like, there's no one way to be an other, right?
Right.
Um,
What?
and yeah,
Yeah. No, it's really fun that you just mentioned that because I was going to say, how many spaces do you think you live in? Is there a Venn diagram? Do you shift gears? For example, like, and this is not across the board for all creatives. Like when someone's like, what space do you live in? Do you think of yourself as like, I'm a writer first, I'm a mom first, or a wife or sister or daughter, or Iraqi American or Muslim American or Southern California? Like, you know how we put ourselves in labels and boxes? Like, how many spaces do you think you live in when you're creating? Or do you shift gears?
when I'm creating or when I'm out presenting, because
No,
that's
when you're creating, when you're actually writing and like thinking of stuff, like, or you just,
well, I mean, when you're creating, it's basically, it should be you and yourself. And the
yeah.
idea that nobody's going to see this. So you should, ideally, I would like to think, and I feel like I am at my rawest form. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't name it in that
Okay.
regard.
Yeah.
I'm,
No, it's true. You are writing from the most purest place that of your authentic lived-in experience, right? But you can be in different spaces as far as representation is concerned. What do you think, Acer, is the most misunderstood thing about Iraqis in America and the American culture? Do you think, in your experience, you'd like to like destigmatize or illuminate or clarify? I mean, with your experience in Kentucky and then also in Southern California growing up, are there like anything that people get wrong about Iraqis?
well, I mean, okay, look, the simplest thing is that they're like, oh, Iranian. I'm like, no, 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 it's not Iraq. So that's the only thing. I mean, I haven't honestly, either I've been numb to or neutral to it now, or people know enough that they understand. But I don't know that there was a time about 10 years ago I would have answered that with a little more certainty. But I don't think I can, I don't know how to answer that right now because I haven't come up against that, any misunderstandings.
That's good. I
Yeah.
mean, that's good. That's great because that's great, and I think that yeah, that was a question because I do think because you wrote a book on your experience, and when people think of Muslims, they think Muslims are only in the Middle East or MENA regions, but they're all over, and so you can't. Our experiences also vary within the Muslim community too, right? Like I'm South Asian and Middle Eastern, so they vary. So all that plays into then the American culture. And, given what you said, version 2 of Trump presidency is now on board. So it's good. I'm happy to hear that there isn't that because I know forever in general, people, I mean, unfortunately, have always, like what you said, after 9/11, it's always been like, well, Muslims bad, terrorists, Arabs this bad or that. So I
Well,
think we've
right.
all.
With so Iraqis not, but with Muslims, yes, there is a lot of misunderstandings.
So do you miss Kentucky or is California forever home for you?
Look, I love California, and I feel like I'm now a native because I've been here for 30 something years.
Oh,
40
wow,
years.
yeah.
But no, I do miss Kentucky. I try to get back there. I have friends. I don't have my family's not there anymore, but I try to get back because it's just so beautiful. It's like a different, it's like more like it's here has this energy, right? You drive the freeway, you're like, oh, everybody's doing something, whatever. It's it could be the ions in the ocean. I don't know. But then when I go, it's just kind of more languid and more relaxed. And it's becoming, you know, Lexington, where I'm from, is becoming very um, artsy and it's becoming more inclusive and multicultural, and so that's really cool.
This
To see.
is great. Well, we're going to now get into your career in entertainment. Now, you briefly talked about how you started off in journalism and then you found yourself editing. And also, of course, you're also creating, producing, and all that stuff and teaching screenwriting. What is for our emerging creatives, what has been the best part of editing projects or being a story producer on all these, Emmy Award nominated winning, Clio winning projects that you've done. Tell us about that.
Well, the best part is just the creation of it. They're all short form. I love documentary. I love finding the story in the edit. And a lot of these, so I'll get the footage after it's been shot, and there's a directive of, oh, we want this, we want it to go in this direction, do this. But then I have the freedom, at least with the first initial cuts, to do what I see fit with the story. And it's just so fun to, I love just listening, I can be immersed in an edit and just like the little nitpicky things that people, can't stand with like listening to something over and over again just to get it right, and like the frame and all of that. And so I love that part of it. I feel like when I started really seriously writing, about 10 years into my editing career, I found that they were both sides of the same process, or both ends. So writing informed my editing, and then editing informed my writing. And when I tell my students, it's like, here's how you can, you can write punchier scripts, because you can just start thinking about how, when you shoot it, and how you can edit, and just like, kind of cut it and give it a rhythm sort of thing. I don't know. I think editing is my first true love, just because you could just sit there for hours and kind of shape something
Mm-hmm.
into something else. And, with music, and the stuff that I do is so great because it's like short form, like I said, short form, and very, a lot of times music driven. And it's just really, it's cool. And it's like, it showcases real people,
Mm-hmm.
docu series, and it just kind of shines a light on those communities. And I've been really fortunate in that regard. And so I
Is
think,
there a project that you really enjoyed most working on, or are there a couple of projects you can share with us?
well, Pose, I love doing
Yeah.
Pose,
Yeah.
because for all the reasons I said before. But it was just, yeah, it's like these real people, it's this world that you didn't see before, and it was fun, and there's music, and they're funny, and it's sexy, and it's all of the things, right? um And Shogun was the same thing this summer. I worked on I did something for Feud where it was Zach Posen designed some fashion. He designed all the dresses that were in a particular scene in the Capote's Feud, Black and White Ball, in the show. And so we did this whole like process of him sourcing material and making the stuff, and then making the dresses, and then hanging them, and then the final fashion show. And that was really super fun because I love fashion and music and all of the things. So
Yeah, it seems like it's one of those careers where you can just keep your eye on a moving target, and it's always stimulating, and you're never really bored. I mean,
correct.
is it?
Yeah.
So that's good. So now, has the progression from journalism to story producing and editing, how has that helped you creatively now? Like where you are now, are you looking to do more of that or continue doing that, or is that like, I know we're going to talk about your short film, but are it does is there more on the horizon with the story producing, or is that something you see yourself doing long term, or is this going to morph into more producing?
Yeah,
Like,
well, no, I love story producing. I love editing. I love being like, we used to call it predator. We used to call it being a predator, which is kind of,
funny pre-editor.
it's like, because you're a producer editor, because they give you the footage and then you cut it together. So
Yeah,
as long as I can do it, I want to do it, because
yeah.
it's just super fun. And right now I'm doing some stuff for the for the Academy Museum. One of my dreams has always been to cut those montages for the Oscars, and it's not that, but it's like an exhibit in the Academy
Oh
Museum.
wow! How
I haven't done that.
congratulations!
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's a very big deal, and I love the Academy Museum. I love it. I'm so happy it's there. It's like what, the third year now, right? It's like in the third year.
you.
Yeah,
It's
it's such a beautiful space, and the gallery that they have with the TV screens and the screens and all the archival footage.
yeah.
Is that something that you'll be working on, like the archival pieces, maybe? Because
Right
those
now,
are beautiful.
it's well, right now I don't know when this is gonna, if I should, it's it's out till June. It's called Color in Motion, and it's
Oh,
about
okay.
color. It's on the, I think it's on, I don't know what floor, third, fourth. But
How exciting. That's great. That's a piece
right,
of, yeah, no, it's a piece of Hollywood history and cinema right there. You're contributing to that. That's so exciting. Well, that I think that's a highlight. Because as an editor, you get to then be in the Academy Museum. Like, that's pretty cool. Well,
it's
applause
pretty
on
cool.
that.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. You have to like, I mean, if you have a newsletter, definitely send out that blast to your audience when it's so we can go and appreciate it too. Because I think I don't know if it happened with you, but I think a lot of us when we're out here in LA for a while, we kind of just don't realize some of the stuff that we're doing is so like pretty cool, and it's like where we came from and where we are, and it's like because you get lost in the LA scene and it becomes like second nature after a while, and then you're like, wait a second,
Right.
20 years ago I wouldn't have this opportunity if I didn't make this move out here and do that. So there's a level of like destiny, fate, fearlessness, and synchronicity, which I think still, even in these uncertain times, make Hollywood such a magical place. And so I think just you saying, like, you started out in Kentucky and now you're editing a piece in the Academy Museum. My goodness, that, like, I will say, mashallah, it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. It's super fun. It's very exciting. It's like and it's nice to be excited about something that you're working on, so.
Yeah. Okay, well, as we all know, we're all multi hyphenates and multi talented. So let's talk about your proof of concept short film, My So-Called Iraqi Wedding. I got to watch it a week ago maybe. Loved it. Hilarious. Really funny. Really quirky. And it's such a, I really liked it. And what I liked, obviously it's a short, it's a proof of concept, but I liked just how lighthearted it was, but also I could see there's more to it from that. And there's more to the story that needs to be told. So my question to you is, before we get into My So-Called Iraqi Wedding, what are your favorite things about Iraqi culture?
The food.
Name a dish so our audience will go try it because we want to know.
So we have kubba, which is the same thing. So every region, every Arabic, well, many regions in the Middle East over there, or now we call it Swana now, I think, isn't that
Mm-hmm.
more politically correct? In that region they have versions of things, but it's kibbe or kubba, but it's like bulgur wheat, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's like a minced pie sort of thing, or like an empanada, but with,
Mm-hmm.
instead of the flour, we use this rice, and it's just so good, and it's like crispy. My mom makes it; it's amazing. Um, and just there's not really anything specifically. So okay, a big Iraqi dish is called mazgoof, which is a fish that they put in like
Oh.
if you go down to El Cajon and all
Mm-hmm.
down south over by like San Diego, that they have all of those like authentic restaurants, but it's like a wood fire kind of pit that
Mm-hmm.
they put this, and it's called the tanur, and they put the fish in there. And I like the concept of it. I mean, I like fish, but I also I'm lazy. I don't want to debone. But yeah, I mean, a lot of just like, it's just all of the things like tabulas. I just love how it's a very vegetarian based,
Mm-hmm.
cuisine. And I love that. But yeah, the food, I love the food. And then I love in weddings, the depka, which is why a
Mm.
big part of why I made the short is I wanted to showcase that. I cannot do it myself. I don't know why. It's a very regimented dance, but I cannot get it. So I have two left feet. I can't do it. And I thought, well, I need to, I love them, just like the Iraqi chobi beat, which is like a very like a percussive, and
Yeah, it's
it's just
beautiful.
really, Joe, it's just very, really celebratory, and
No.
everything you expect, loud and brash and wonderful. And I love that about it. And actually, I should say, Iraqis have most Iraqis I've met are very funny. They have
Yeah.
a really hilarious, it's just like a certain way of looking at things. And so it just makes me laugh just being around.
Yeah, I did love the Debka scene in your film. is so ecstatic. And yes, it's very connective, like the beats, like you were saying. It's very like, I don't know what the term is because I'm not a musician, but like it's very grounding. Like, like, and we don't have that in South Asian. We have more of like the dhol, but it's not as like interactive where the dancing is like that with that. So I think that was beautiful. So where did the idea for My So-Called Iraqi Wedding come from, and why the short? And tell us a little bit more about why you made this and took a break from directing and directed this.
Well, I had wanted to write a rom-com because I love them, and I thought,
Mhm.
well, I want to write something that has somebody who looks like me and the main character, and so that the idea, it was going to be a American spin on a classic rom-com, and then it sort of evolved over the years. And I wrote it as a feature, and it made the rounds, and it was optioned, and then again, this was all. I'm gonna blame everything on COVID, but it was around COVID and the option ran out and nobody did anything with it. And I thought, so I was with my partner, Sarah, who is in the film. She's the
Yes.
actress. And we were just talking about, why don't we just do this? What are we doing? And I came out to LA for Loyola Marymount to be a filmmaker. And then since then, it was, easier. And also they were paying me really well to sit behind a computer and edit. And I just thought, okay, well, I'm going to do this, but it's been so long. And I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm going to make it. And
Mhm.
as soon as I set foot on set, it was just like, why have I been away for so long? And I think the
Mhm.
reason why is because when I was doing it, we were like low budget, everybody was we were doing everything, three jobs to everybody. And now I realize, oh, you can pay people, you can hire things. Wow. Okay. So that's, yeah. So it was, the idea was to take this feature and condense it in a way that was a standalone, but also told us somewhat of the story. And I thought, well, if it's going to be a short, and if this is the only thing anyone ever sees, let's say it doesn't go anywhere, it would be fun to showcase this Iraqi wedding stuff, which is like the rituals and the stages and all of that
Mhm.
kind of
Mhm.
super fun to me. And a lot of people don't do it, or they do versions of it. And there's actually, I think, seven, but we condensed it to five. And you know, I just thought that, so I thought it was like, this is be a fun thing just to put out in the world. You don't see that. We don't
Yeah,
see
it was
exactly
I
what
I really love how you paid attention. Like I really love the little details that made it like a comedy, but also you could tell there's drama there. But I love the dad's character and his t-shirts changing, which I don't want to give away too much because I know you're going to go on the film festival circuit and share. But there was a lot of cute little details in the cast that you brought on. I think really great too. So like where are you with this film right now, and what do you want your audience, after they see the short, My So-Called Iraqi Wedding, take away from it? And then what is the future goal with this film?
So we just finished post, and we had the screening that you came to was a friends and family private screening. And so we're doing that right now while we're applying to festivals. We're doing kind of this, we're working with a festival coordinator to do this sort of strategic kind of thing, where we can go. And then hopefully, have our world premiere somewhere in the new year sometime. I don't know what the schedule is, but so to get, to shed light on it, and then to hopefully raise more money to be able to make the feature
Yeah.
of it.
What do you want audience and programmers who see your film take away from that, get from your film? Like, what is a message if there is more than one, or what are you hoping that you, as a director and a filmmaker and a storyteller, people take away from your film?
Yeah, I think the the joy that and the chaos in this kind of culture, this ritual, this you know event, basically, that ends up, because I'm a big fan of, like, the theme in all of my a lot of my stories was like, being true to yourself and what do you want versus all of the cultural expectations, and doing what you want versus what's expected of you. So I just thought that would be an interesting thing to put in the set it in this world of this big, wedding. And, there's a line in there like Iraqis, the one thing Iraqis love more than a party is a wedding party. And this woman who is like kind of swept along in it. And, you know, does she really want it, or is it just something that's expected of her? And so I like that concept of it. I like how do you listen to your own heart if when everything around you is just so loud, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's, a lot of it has been my personal journey, not with weddings per se, but just in general. And I just thought,
Mhm.
who doesn't love
No,
a wedding?
I love that. I love how you just gave that standalone perspective of like how much is imposed and how much is of it your choice. So I think, and then you shared this story in such a lighthearted way. I think it's going to be. I found it to be very entertaining. I smiled and I laughed a lot, and I think you did a great job in encapsulating that in a very short film, which is great as a proof of concept. So
Thank
good
you.
things on the horizon for you, Ayser. What else do you want to create in the future? What is your ideal collaboration? Let's say, you do get to make this into a feature, but what beyond this? What else do you want to do?
I would love to do or work with at least one person on a documentary of some sort. And
Mhm.
a documentary, I'm not sure, what the subject matter is. I know people usually come from a subject matter instead of
Yeah.
the opposite way. So, but I just love the idea of my favorite thing about documentaries is how they start out being about something and then they become something else.
Yes.
So I would love to collaborate with you know someone or someone's on that.
Mhm.
I would love to get back to writing. I'm working on a middle grade book. Um,
Mhm.
kind of, sort of, I'm just starting it now, so I'm kind of formulating ideas.
Okay.
And I just, I'd love to just keep editing, especially
Yeah.
reel and things like that.
Well, that is great. Well, I think we learned a lot about you today, Acer, and I think I really want to see your future. I do want to see My So-Called Iraqi Wedding and a theatrical release feature because I do think there's so much more to that story, and I think we need that. We need that film made. So hopefully, we'll get everybody around and support your film, and I'm pretty sure it's going to win many awards for sure because it's funny. You had some great characters, and the look overall too. It's a beautiful film. I mean, for a short comedy. So you guys did a great job. We are at the end of our segment, so we're going to go on to our reflective questions.
Ooh.
What is home, Acer? How do you define home?
I think I feel I sense myself getting even deeper. My instinctive thing is just like, somewhere that's comfortable where I have cats, my cats are, where my friends are, where my family is, but really a place where I can be myself,
Mm-hmm.
which is, and sun filled, like a sun filled room where I can take a nap.
Yes, naps are good. Naps are good. um, from where you are now, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
uh, that it does get better. I know that's the generic answer, but I would tell my a 16-year-old self to just relax, like just don't rush. There's that Billy Joel song Vienna, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, the line is Vienna waits for you, slow down, you don't need to like rush. Everything's just chill, basically.
Chill.
I think when I was 16, I felt like I needed to know everything, and I felt like if I didn't know everything, that I was never going to know everything.
Mm.
So yeah, just relax. I would just say, just it's all you're good.
That's good advice for a lot of us, even now. Like, I mean, just like the urgency in the world is just so much. Sometimes we just all need to just take a
Mhm.
beat, right? Um, what are three good markers of a good community? Like, what do you think is important for a community of any kind? It could be a neighborhood, a family, global community.
Well, we need to have a space that they can go to, right? Um,
Hmm.
a space where you can feel safe and the exchange of I. So okay, hold on. You asked for three things. I'm just throwing stuff at you.
These are
Physical,
good though.
right? A physical space that could also be an online space, but somewhere that people can go. The safety to feel comfortable expressing themselves. So that's number 2. And food.
Yes.
Good food. But no, wait, hold on. Number 2 should be like knowing that you have a supportive network.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing. That should be actually number 1, is knowing the marker of a good community is knowing that you're not alone, that somebody's got you.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Yes, that's great. That's awesome. Where is your next destination? Where would you like to go next in the world?
I'm a big fan of London, so I kind of want to go there. But I'm gonna take my mom on a trip. I think maybe somewhere warm. I'm not sure. That's a good question. I'm not a big, traveler. I should be more. But I think when you going back to your home question, I like being home.
No, I mean, you're a creative. Like we do alternate. We got to have our hermit time to like just kind of sit in our space and recharge. I think we're like houseplants. Like, you need a little bit of sun and then you just got to chill for a little bit.
I like the house plant. Yes, I like to. Yes, I love that. That's I'm going to use that analogy.
Well, this was great, Ayser. Thank you so much
My
for
pleasure.
being a guest, and I learned so much about your writing, your book, your film. We're gonna link all your resources on our website and share that with the audience. Where can people connect with you? They can find you everywhere, but aysersalman.com. Everywhere on the social media.
I'm like Times Square billboard.
Yes.
I'm on, Instagram, mainly Instagram, LinkedIn, and what are the other, and Ayser Salman is by my full name. I don't have like the cute handle or anything like that. But I have to say, like, I have to give you, like, this is a really cool podcast to be a guest on, but it's also really, what a cool thing that you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like it's really, like, you really kind of, I've never been asked what my favorite cartoons were, and probably, I've been worse off for it. So, so this is great.
No, I appreciate those kind words, especially coming from such a esteemed creative like yourself. I appreciate that.
Thank you for noticing. How did you get? I want to ask you real quick, like,
Yeah.
what gave you the idea to do this podcast?
Oh God. Short answer, not having community and not having enough empathy in the world and being on the short end of that and receiving that. So I was like, why not just create a community like that where we go a little bit deeper. I know you like short form, but I feel like in the lost art of long form and just slowing down and getting to know people beyond the surface, which goes back to what you were saying about salons. That's very appealing to me too, because where you can just beyond like, how's the weather? What did you do? It's like really talk about things that matter, or that you can get to know people in community, but connect on a deeper level. So for me, that was missing. And I was just like, we just touched the surface. I know there's more to creative people and social entrepreneurs and people in innovation. They have more to why their purpose is. So let's get to the heart of that. So I was like, why not just do this? And I just started it. Like, it's our first year. So yeah, we hope to do more of these and hope to get some funding and then have a better setup and do more with this as a community building thing. Cause it's important. So
It's amazing. It really is important. And I'm really, it's nice to have another thing to add to my list of podcasts.
Yay. Oh, I'm excited. Well, I will tell you, this is great. And I am going to keep us posted on your Academy Museum project, because I would love to share that on our Instagram in the future and all that. But thank you so much, Ayser. It was lovely having you here. We wish you a wonderful 2025.
If you enjoyed The Slow Dive, please subscribe and leave us a positive review wherever you get your podcasts. The Slow Dive is hosted by Farida Rafique, edited by Drew Franzblatt. Our theme song is Dive by Sarah. Thanks for listening.